Who's next? Blanca Cobb. That's right. Many of you already know Blanca. Blanca is known locally and nationally, even internationally, as a body language expert. And as a part of her expertise, she looks at what are the things that work and don't work when it comes to presenting yourself and communicating accurately with others. And so she's going to talk with us a little about 7 things that are not so good, right? All right. Welcome, Blanca. You need this?
Yes, I do. Oh. All right, good.
When we think about presence, we think about in-person presence. We think about how we dress. We think about how we look. We think about whether we have a firm handshake when we greet someone. We think about whether we smile when we say hello. Would you be surprised to know that in this era of technology, people are forming impressions about you before they even lay eyes on you, in your words, in your content, in your writing? Today, you're going to learn 7 deadly writing sins that can sabotage your online presence because your clients are reading your content to determine your credibility, your likability, and most importantly, your buy-ability. First, I start off with dodging reality. And what this is are verb choices in your writing. Verbs talk about action and inaction. So when you talk about an event that is in the past, your words, your verbs need to reflect a past event. Doesn't matter if it's 5 seconds, 5 months, or 5 years. It needs to be in the past. Because if you're writing about the past and you introduce the present, then you're creating, you're not reliving, you're living in that current moment. It can sabotage your message. The word never is a tricky word. Why? A lot of times we hear never, we think it automatically means no, and it doesn't. If we think about former President Bill Clinton, when he was explaining himself about Monica Lewinsky, this is what he said. I never had sexual relations with that woman. Never. It sounds like a denial. It sounds good. It wasn't. As we found out, he did have sexual relations with that woman. So unless you actually mean not one time ever in your whole entire life, be careful of using that word. Whoops. Exaggerated hype. Not everything is wonderful, glorious, sunshine and roses. Absolutely, really, every, only. Nope. People are going to call your bluff. Not everything is wonderful. But we do that, why? To sell ourselves. I'm going to try to convince you of something. Sometimes simple is the best message. Alternating persons. Who are you? Are you an I? Are you a we? Are you a they? Be careful in your writing. If you start off talking in the first person I, and then you change it to we without explaining that transition, people are going to wonder who you are. Who's your identity? What's your identity? Be careful about jumping around. Distancing language. This is where we want to remove ourselves from someone or an event. And we will put that distance, and it comes across in your writing. This is what you will hear. The man, the waiter, my boss, my colleague, where's their name? We all have names, not just titles and occupations. This is a classic one. How many of you have children or grandchildren and they piss you off, and what do? Come take care of your child. You are distancing yourself from your kid in that moment in time. Lack of commitment. I think, Probably, perhaps, maybe. What message are you trying to convey? If you say, I think we're the best company, versus we are the best company, do you hear the difference? If you think and you're not making a commitment, then why should they make the commitment to you? Yakety yak. This is verbal diarrhea, folks. This is where you have words coming, streaming out of your mouth. They make no sense, and they end up on the floor. I'll give you a very good example, which I cannot memorize, because no matter how many times I teach it locally or at the Body Language Institute in Washington, D.C., it still makes no sense to me. But perhaps someone in this room, it will make sense to you. Former Governor of South Carolina, Mark Sanford, when he was explaining his affair to the media, this is what he said. I'm here because if you were to look at God's laws, they're in every instance designed to protect people from themselves. I think that is the bottom line of God's laws, that it's not just a moral, a rigid list of do's and don'ts just for the heck of do's and don'ts. It's indeed to protect us from ourselves, and the biggest self of self is indeed self. What? That is a prime example of yakety yak, verbal diarrhea. It makes no sense, but guess what? He was talking. Be careful with your messages. There has to be a point to it. Stalling time. This comes across in our writing when we don't answer someone's question. We're giving an answer. We all have answers, but if we're not answering someone's question, it takes away our credibility. There's an interview between Lance Armstrong and Oprah Winfrey that I was called into News 2 to analyze. And part of the dialogue between Oprah and Lance Armstrong was this. Oprah asked him, when you won in 2009, when you came in third place in 2009, did you dope? This was his answer. I've not crossed that line. The last time I crossed that line was in 2005. It's an answer. It sounds like an okay answer. It's not answering the question. Okay, remember what I talked about distancing earlier? The word that suggests distance. This, that. When you have the word that in your language, you're distancing yourself. It implies some type of conflict, particularly when you're talking about that person versus this person. He didn't answer the question. The better answer would have been, no, I didn't dope in 2009. You have to be careful with vernacular. What something means to me may be very different than what it means to you. So you want to be careful with the language that you use. So those are your 7 deadly writing sins that can sabotage your online presence. Now let's keep this conversation going. For those who are interested in learning more, I have a special report. And this special report is about how to use embedded commands in your writing to influence your clients. Chris Angel did this with Oprah Winfrey on national television to get her to reveal the secret number in her head. And by his word choices, which was televised to millions of people, she demonstrated what the right answer was in her body language. It's quite fascinating. So not only can your words make a negative impact, they can also make a positive impact. So for those who are interested, just leave your business cards on the table. I will collect them. At the end of each row, please, I will collect them, and then I will send you that special report. Thank you very much.